Call the meeting to order for the Travelers Rest Planning Commission for May 22nd, 2025. Thank everyone for being here, and we are going to do our roll call, and we'll start here and work down.
Melissa Helbert-Pogoff.
Michelle Garrison.
Rebecca Cooper.
Ryan Maxwell.
Evan Cantrell.
Matt Gilstrap.
Thank you so much. We have our minutes from our annual security meeting minutes from April 24th, and we've all had these to review. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, right hand. Opposed, like sign. Next is the approval of monthly meeting minutes from April 24th, 2025. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No, they're quite lengthy. If there's no discussion, all in favor, right hand. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. We have a public hearing presentation for TR 21-13 FDP final review, final development plan. Mr. J.
Thank you so much. So this is a final development plan, minor change. This is for the station at Travelers Rest, which is located at 745 Old Buncombe Road. 6.868 acre site was initially approved as a flexible review district in 2020. Final development plan was approved in 2021. Parking and a mixed-use building were approved at that time. The parking and the mixed-use building that were approved at that time have not been constructed. The other part that was approved was the cottage buildings that we've seen that are built along the Swamp Rabbit Trail there. Future land use, in 2019, called it a suburban commercial center, which is regional commercial, neighborhood commercial, office, multifamily apartments classification. That was used when it was rezoned. The subject parcel is located in the city limits and is zoned FRD, Flexible Review District. The final step in the city's process is the approval of the FDP, which must be recorded per the City of Travelers Rest zoning ordinance. For your information, this is a minor change to it, so this does not go before council. If it was a major change, it would go from here and go to council, but in this case, there will be no additional density, there will be no additional access locations, and so it's deemed a minor change. As per the City of Travelers Rest zoning ordinance, the Planning Commission, acting upon the recommendation of the planning staff, may approve, disapprove the final development plan, or approve with conditions, which is what I was about to say here. In reviewing the final development plan, the Planning Commission may require any such design modifications as necessary to assure compliance with the approved preliminary development plan. The existing uses are as follows. The subject site is FRD. To the north is C2 Commercial, which is vacant. To the south is C2 Commercial in Greenville County, which is a residential single-family subdivision. That's Velo, and that is allowed within C2 in Greenville County at the time that was done. To the east is C2 Commercial and S1 Service in Greenville County. That's the gas station that's getting the new canopy that blew over a while back, and a piece of that that's adjacent is vacant. To the west is I-1 Industrial. That's the backside of the Greenville County property that is Trailblazer Park, and that is a vacant piece of property. Old Buncombe Road is a state-maintained road providing access between White Horse Road and Main Street 276. Edward Street is a state-maintained road providing access between US 276 and Old Buncombe Road. Edward Street provides no access to the subject property. There is a floodway, Zone AE, the 100-year flood zone, Zone AE, and 0.2% annual chance flood hazard area, Zone X. That's basically 500-year floodplain that's not really regulated. Located on subject property according to 2019 flood insurance rate maps, panel 45045CO304E. The site will be served by Metro Connect Sewer, Greenville Water. There is a rewa line that runs adjacent to the property, but the sewer is already brought up through the property for the previous 8 cottage units. The project site is partially developed with parking and 8 cottage units. The review criteria that we used here: no building permit or certificate of occupancy shall be issued in an FRD district until the Planning Commission, acting upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission staff, has approved and there is a recorded final development plan meeting the requirement of the section. So we are looking for consistency with the approved preliminary development plan, and this submittal would be deemed a minor change to no change in density or use. Based on the above referenced criteria, staff provides the following findings. The preliminary development plan is consistency. The final development plan is consistent with the approved preliminary development plan. We can pull up those. Let's go ahead and pull those up. You received several maps through your through the process. So which one are we going to go with? We're going to go with so this map here, I believe, maybe not what I'm looking for.
In our packet, the very last one.
This
There
is-
you go, that's it.
This is it. So this is actually your preliminary development plan. And so what it showed was the 8 cottage units are there in the middle, adjacent to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. There's a building, it's the darker orange, that is closer to Old Buncombe Road, or Street, or Edward Street, sorry. That one where the arrow is on top of it on the screen, that has yet to be built, but has already been approved in a final development plan that I can show you after this. The building in question is really this yellow building right here. This is where the event center was located in the preliminary development plan. As you can see, it is in close proximity to Old Buncombe Road up here. So let me go. This should be, this was the previously approved final development plan. So inside of that, you can see my arrow will be over the building here and the parking here, which has not been completed. And in this location was the event space right here. This is future development down below in this corner. Statement of intent was provided in your packet so that you could review through in case there was anything that stuck out, but the plans really cover more of the information. Since we're going backwards in this is the elevation that was provided of the event center space. I was looking at it today just to clarify with y'all. It's along the Swamp Rabbit Trail, but it looks like it sits about 6 feet below elevation-wise the Swamp Rabbit Trail, and there is vegetation between those two. So it will not sit, as it looks, to be at the same level as the Swamp Rabbit Trail, so there'll be some separation thereof. What the elevation doesn't show in totality is there, outside of that area, there will be a tent location, a pad where a tent could be added and everything. And I'll let the applicant speak to the uses of the event center and everything else. And then this is the final development plan that we are reviewing and potentially approving this evening. And you can see in this area here is the event space. And in this space here is the tent. The Swamp Rabbit runs along in this straight line with the bottom of the property, and then you can see there's this jut in right here. That's because there's a slope that starts to develop along the old railway, and so this sits higher than this here and leaves a little vegetation between those two that doesn't really show up. Sorry, hit the wrong button. Forgive me. Way. So there you can see the vegetation. That's a blow up. That shows the vegetation that would be in the parking area to meet those requirements. And it also shows that vegetated area with the clouding, looks like a revision cloud around it. And there's existing trees inside that. And that's the presentation. If you have any questions in that regard, and then the applicant also will have opportunity to speak.
Is the buffer area you just talked about, is there any chance of connection between the tent pad and the trail, or that's just not?
I will speak from my knowledge of it, and the applicant can speak to it as well. As far as me looking at it, because railroad grades are like
Pretty
SCDOT
steep,
grades, they can be steep. At the time those things were constructed, they didn't necessarily abide by 2-to-1 slopes like we have to abide to now, and sometimes they were 1.5 to 1 or 1 to 1, which is a 45-degree. And that's just for fun. That's where we got kudzu from, because there's no way to stabilize that kind of slope. I haven't looked into what the slope is there. I don't think it's a 1-to-1. It doesn't look that steep. But being 2-to-1, it makes it very difficult to. I'll let the applicant speak to it, because I don't believe that the idea is to separate from the trail. I just think that the connection to the trail would occur closer to
Sure.
Edward Street.
Got it, thank you.
And the safety and security of an event going on would probably be better to not have some sort of access to an event that people can just wander in. I
My
don't know,
personal
Cash
opinion
bar.
is that would be correct, that if it was right off of the trail, somebody could just be a wedding crasher, you know, I guess. And the worst would be if it wasn't a cash bar, if it was just an open bar.
Well, that was my understanding, yes. I never get an open bar, so.
There you go. So, yes, there would be a good separation from the public and private use.
Is there a max capacity for that space?
I will let the applicant speak to that, but it's 5,000 square feet, and so there will be a max capacity to it. I do know that in the final development plans, and it might be difficult to see the note, but in this area here, and this area here is natural but allows for overflow parking to handle that. And also want to point out that this road that's here at the current time is basically a dirt road that would be a paved road. That would help in 2 regards. One, it helps from fire, to be able to have the emergency access, but also it helps to allow 2 locations for somebody from an event to leave the site, which would help in that. But the overflow parking could be done, and it would just be on the grass areas as they are. A lot of events, if I go to a wedding now, a lot of parking is on grassed areas and that sort of thing.
So it would be the original entrance that's there already, and then one on the other end closer to the Furman property?
Yes, it is basically, it's close down there to the bridge, but it's
Yeah.
far enough away from the bridge that,
Yeah.
and obviously the access point there is looked at by SCDOT, because that is their road, to make sure they have the line of sight and everything.
And how would guest parking for the overnight stations be protected from an event going on, or will it?
I will allow the applicant to speak to that one. I believe it is shared parking, so.
An idea of how much parking we could get on the grass areas? Do we feel like a full capacity event could be, everybody could park on site?
I'd let the applicant speak to that. I did not do a study of how many cars I thought we could put in that area. From the city's standpoint, I do believe there could be an opportunity to work together with City Hall. We're very close proximity. We have a lot of parking that goes unused that could be used to shuttle if necessary. And I know, speaking from the city, that just signing up with a event permit, that they could handle that kind of thing.
I apologize. I think you may have been speaking to this. The road connection, it is dirt. Oh, I'm sorry. It is dirt right now. Is that going to be done as part of this? That be a paved connection as part of the event space?
That's my understanding.
Other questions for Jay? So now we can hear from Bryce to answer the other details.
You guys can tell me if I misspoke on anything.
No, I think you did a great job. In fact, if you want to take over here, yes, sir. So questions from me? Would you like to hear kind of an overview?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we've been working on this obviously for a long time in terms of getting this second phase, as we refer to it, of construction going, and that's been an interesting journey with, we built this in the middle of the pandemic and then, started trying to raise capital for this second phase in a very challenging time with interest rates and capital markets and all that. So we're excited to hopefully be on our journey toward building this next phase. So we're very much in line with the original project. What was envisioned when we started this project is a boutique hotel with essentially a deconstructed hotel is kind of the way we described it, as opposed to, a big box. Nothing against any of those buildings, but, we saw an opportunity in the market for something that's different, something that's a little more connected to green space, nature, activity, and all of that stuff. And so that site is an amazing site. TR is an amazing place in terms of connectivity to, the trail and, what people are doing and a gateway to the mountains and all of that. So, this vision for an upscale boutique hotel is still exactly in line with what we plan to do. I might have done it in a little different order, knowing what I know now, and built this event space in the little lodge first, but we live and we learn. But in any case, we built the 8 cottages. We opened those in September of 22. And they've been extremely well received. Took us a while to kind of get on the radar screen of travelers, Furman parents, people that have family here in Travelers Rest. A lot of people didn't really know what it was that we built. Was it a condo? Was it rentable, long-term, and all sorts of things? So, we've learned a few lessons in terms of getting the word out and what it is. But where we are today is it's heavily used. If you've read the reviews on any place that we're distributed, whether it's our own website, Google, or Expedia, or others, our reviews are fantastic. They love Travelers Rest. They love what we've built, and they would like to see us do more. We spend a lot of time with our guests trying to understand what they want to do. And within this phase, I think we're accomplishing all of the big picture items. So the little lodge that Jade mentioned that was previously approved, that'll have a small food hall on the main level, which will be right along the trail and set up obviously for our guests to use, but certainly for trail users to use as well. You mentioned trail access. That's where we envision the primary trail access and roll off on the trail. The grade's better there. It's much easier. And that would be kind of on the Edwards Street side of that building. We have had a lot of requests from guests to do a secondary access at the end of the cottages. And we've talked with Ty Hoke and the Greenville County team with the Swamp Rabbit Trail, and we've submitted an idea for that, and I think that's something that we will eventually build, and that will be up to their standards and all that kind of stuff. But and the reason for that is, so many of our guests come here and they've got bicycles, and right now they have to kind of wander up through the grass and, find a way onto the trail and all of that. So we want to solve for that, to be clear. but we don't have any plan to build an additional access point. As Jay said, it's steep and it gets steeper as you go down the hill. And, I don't think there's a need for it, number one. There's security issues, the types of events which I'll talk about that we want to have. I don't think we want people just kind of wandering in. What we do believe, though, is a lot of people will attend these events in a lot of different, maybe non-traditional ways, whether that's by bicycle, by Uber and everything else, which is obviously, we all know, very common now. And of course, there'll be many people that are staying on site that will be there. And one of the things we've seen with just talking with guests and people that are interested in doing weddings and corporate events and outings and all that stuff is the fact that we do have on-site lodging, and in this case, we'll have 16 additional suites, so that'll take us to a capacity of 24 rooms. And that's a really good sweet spot. It's a good bit larger than Hotel Domestique, as an example, which is a great place. And I think it will be extremely popular as a place to host unique weddings. This event center was originally envisioned at the end of that parking lot, and we thought, well, we'll do this tentable area in the center of that field, and that's been the plan for a long time. But because we've had so much time to think about this, as opposed to start constructing it, we started rethinking where it should be. And the overwhelming consensus was to put it a little closer to the trail, facing the trail. It has this, it'll be a pretty cool, unique building, but it'll have, a lot of exposure to people that are currently using the trail. And as events happen, from a marketing standpoint, to be able to see events going on there and see people using it is really important to our business plan. So moving it close to the trail is great. The tent pad is still an important part of the project. I wouldn't say it's not the driving force from a capacity standpoint. In meeting with event planners, which we've met with lots and continue to do that, to just really understand, how to build the right building, what are the dynamics, what's important for these types of things. We'll probably not build the tent pad day one. We'll build all of that area that connects to that building as lawn and green space that's tentable. So it's, grass and like any other tentable space. But as opposed to putting in a permanent tent pad day one, we really want to understand what demand looks like, what sizes are useful and all of that kind of stuff. But having the ability to connect tents and to do that sort of thing, it is an important part of events. I'm sure we've all been to many, many events. There's, having a capacity of indoor dinner, which this building will have a full catering kitchen. We've signed a letter of intent with Table 301, which I'm sure you all know. We signed a letter of intent with professional party rental and all of that stuff for all of the stuff that goes inside and all of that. And the ability to create kind of a dynamic space and a unique space that can be customized for a specific event is more important than almost anything that we're learning. Capacity standpoint, I heard that question. This design is 5,000 square feet, which is plenty for what we want to do. That allows us to do seated dinners of 100, which is a really good sweet spot for events. Our parking allows us, I think it gives credit for 3 guests per vehicle on our surface parking. We have an existing 24 spots on site, so we'll have spots for guests, and we believe many guests will be attendees to events, and then we'll have an additional 47 spots. And then we have, what we think is a abundant supply of overflow parking, whether that's along that road that will bisect the lot, or, as Jay mentioned, in the fields. We've got, we haven't done a specific study on size, but just kind of looking at bubbles of what it would take. I mean, we easily can park 50 cars, no problem, in that field. And then, early on, we had the discussions about using Trailblazer Park as a parking lot, History Museum, running a shuttle and that sort of thing. I think if that was an event that made sense, that was that size, obviously we'd permit it through you guys before we did it, but I think those are great solutions, but I don't anticipate that that's going to be the kind of driving force. We're not looking to have, Lollapalooza or something on our site. We want to have a cool place where, it's part of the community. Some of the questions I got several years ago when we were going through this process was, will this be open and usable by, people in the community? And it will. Of course it would. Be crazy to turn people away that want to have an event on our site. The same thing with the food hall. I mean, that's set up to be an amenity and connected to the trail. Its proximity to the trail was a direct result of Ty Hoke saying, listen, we think this building should be as close to the trail as you can get it. And in fact, there was an original proposal that we'd have this terrace over the trail, and then Ty couldn't get that approved, which was interesting and funny, but in hindsight.
He doesn't give up very easy.
He didn't, but he was, I mean, I love Ty. He's a great
Yeah,
guy. I'm sure you all know him. And a lot of ideas, a lot of energy. But, we think we're following our original path and, feel great about this project. We think it's going to be really successful. There's just an immense amount of demand for this type of product in TR. We think we're going to be, very helpful for, the local economy. We have been already, and we, certainly want to continue to be a big part of Travelers Rest's success. So that's my spiel. I'm sure I skipped something, and if you have questions.
Who's the managing component for the event center? Is that with Table 301, or will you have your own?
We'll do it jointly in this case with Table 301. So they have a full event team,
Yeah.
obviously, that, takes leads and places events where they think they should. And but we'll also have our own sales and marketing group to market that. And that's also kind of on the council of Carl Sobczynski. He's like, we'll drive a lot of business, but you also want to be driving business yourself. So, and we already have our own operating company that manages the existing 8 cottages. So we'll grow our team and build on that.
Who is that?
The company, it's called Compo Hotels, so it's on the sign, and I own the majority of Compo Hotels, and then I have a lady named Tracy Clem, who's the director of operations, and she, currently does most of the, guest relations and all of that stuff.
Has there ever been any thought to a permanent restaurant type building also that you would lease out space to a Sobeys, to a,
The
more
food hall.
upscale?
The food hall itself.
Yeah.
But that would be, is that also going to be the event space?
No.
No, it's separate. Sorry, yes. It's a great question, but the food hall is on the trail level of the lodge building.
Okay.
And so there'll be 2 levels above that have 8 suites on each of those levels. So that main level, we're envisioning to have possibly 4 concepts in a food hall format. So we're still working on the interior design and how that will lay out. But I think that's that, and it's modeled honestly very closely to the expansion area for the Commons. If you've seen, they added, I think, 6 or 7 concepts. We're not going to add that many. I wish there was enough demand here because the Commons, I was there for lunch today. It's just amazing how, I mean, it's just, you can't park there. It's just crazy. But we'll be much smaller than that, but similar size. And that's kind of a trend in that space is, more common area, small kitchens, and these restaurateurs can rent a smaller kitchen and, build a buzz on, whatever their thing is and potentially expand later. And so we want to also be a place for those folks to show their best, and we're very focused. We're already doing outreach now. There's a lot of interest from some new restaurateurs that are coming here from across the country, some local people that want to expand, people in TR that are looking for additional locations. So there's a lot of interest in this space.
And what's the timeline for these projects?
For the construction, we are obviously in the process of, all of the, appropriate approvals and all of that permitting. We hope to have that done September-ish. Is the goal. And assuming that happens, we'll close on our construction financing and all that at that time. We'll be fully permitted. Our construction group, which is we've selected but not contracted yet with Boardman Group, and they're good to go. They would, I think, be ready to start the next day. They've been kind of waiting in the wings for a while. So if we started, to your question, in, the fourth quarter of this year, I think we're projecting an 18-month build-out to complete everything. And, I think that's realistic. Timelines kind of always move around, but the basic timelines for construction are less than that, but we're kind of allowing for, weather and every other thing that happens.
I know I've been driving the shuttle a little bit. And I
You have
do
been
have-
driving it?
I have.
Oh, cool.
And there's always questions about, what's this? What is
Yeah,
it?
well,
What's gonna
good.
be? What's coming?
I'm so excited. We're a
Yeah.
sponsor of the shuttle. We
Yeah,
love the
we
shuttle.
appreciate
and,
that.
Chelsea's just great. So
Yes.
she's a star for TR.
He is.
So down the road, another phase or two are for the tree houses?
Yes.
Or the next phase after
Yeah,
this?
I want to build tree houses so bad I can't stand it, to be honest with you. And we're gonna, obviously, that's not part of this minor modification, but we are working on treehouse concepts that we hope to squeeze in, we'll call it a handful. With the financing lift to get this part done, I just didn't think it made sense to try to come in here. We don't have a full plan yet, but we have a really good idea of what that'll look like, and we hope to start it during this phase. Obviously, we'll have to come back here and talk about that, but the goal would be to do a handful. I don't know what that is, but I think we were originally approved for possibly 26 tree houses. We're not looking any, they're represented with those little boxes on the lower part. I don't want to say we'll never build that many. It just depends what the market does, but we found some really cool concepts that are modular buildings. They're built, off-site and then trucked in a couple of pieces, and they're so cool looking and so just polished and well built. My partner Lee and I are working on really analyzing that, and we'll test a couple, make sure it makes sense. But I wish we were building them right now, because there's everybody I've talked to.
They're
Like,
fun.
I want to rent a treehouse. I want to rent a treehouse.
Sounds like our tree code will be covered with those, right? We won't have issues with taking down trees, so.
No, that's a great question. Thank you for that. No, we don't have any anticipation. There's going to be a couple of trees removed where the event or the lodge building goes. There's no trees, well, there's some tiny trees where the event building is that are invasive species. But the lower part of the site, and we've done a full tree survey on the whole site, so we identified every single tree. We even identified all the trees along the trail that are part of the county's property, just to make sure, because we actually maintain that property, to the extent we can, and clear it out and keep the low growth vegetation out and all that stuff. So trees are kind of our product. We want as many of them as we can get. So I think what you'll see as we go about this is we'll probably plant a lot more trees than have been on that site, at least since we've owned it. And that's the goal. I'm a lover of trees, so the earlier you get them in the ground, the faster they become big and cool and important. So I think we'll be very good stewards of the trees.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, for folks that walk in off the trail or whatnot, will there be like restrooms that are welcoming for people that aren't staying here and stuff like that for the food hall? And then would there be like a water bottle fill-up station, bike pump, stuff like that?
Yes to everything. We haven't talked specifically about bike pump and some of that maintenance stuff. So we'll have, it's going to be a public space, and there'll be central restrooms for that space. So obviously people can come right off the trail and, come in and use that restroom. One of our things we're working on is maintaining that restroom and figuring out how that will work. But obviously, the Commons does it, and we'll do it, and it'll be part of the overall plan. Water bottle access, yes. We're looking at a lot of kind of cool ideas with water bottles. We're actually in the process of phasing out plastic water bottles in our cottages now, and replacing that with glass water bottles. We didn't put in, this is more information than you want possibly, but we didn't put in, the filling stations and filters yet. So people kind of have a little funny feeling about tap water, even though Greenville
They're in
County tap
Greenville.
water is like the best in the country. But so we're working on that, because it's kind of part of the messaging and story that we're trying to tell. And we don't have it all worked out, but I think the ultimate goal will be to have some water features that are not crazy but interesting, and also access to water and everything else. We've anticipated, bike maintenance and being able, our guests to be able to ship bikes in and have them put together and all that kind of stuff. None of that stuff's formalized, but we do have a good bit of space planned in the basement of that building. And so I'm not sure what'll be public and what'll be part of a guest experience. But I don't know if you've seen how some of the bike maintenance places are maintained along the trail, but they get beat up pretty bad. So we got to be careful what we sign up for on bike repair stuff.
The C buildings on this plan where we're putting the event space, are y'all envisioning that that is not going to be part of the future plans?
Those two buildings that are shown they're kind of the same shape. Yeah, we're not planning to build those buildings. I think, from a capacity of the site, I can't remember the full number, but I believe it was 96 keys or 98 keys. We don't have any plans to go to 98 keys. We don't want to give up the opportunity. If this goes really well, I think we would build a smaller one of those buildings, kind of down in the direction. I don't know if you walked the site, but there's an old barn, sort of where the old barn is well up, very visible from the trail, and I think we could build some additional keys down there. Obviously, we'd come back to see you all to talk about that, but those buildings would not be. That green space is just, it sort of defines our site, and so putting the event building in there obviously takes up a chunk of it, but we think it enhances it in a way, and we just really want to protect that open field. I mean, it's just amazing. People come and, they walking their dogs there. People come off the trail to walk there like it's a park, and, we want it to feel that way, so it's kind of the magic of this site. So we're going to have to balance adding some capacity as demand grows, but we're locked from our original FRD from what we can do unless I don't anticipate ever going beyond that, but building those two buildings in that space is, I think, kind of off the table.
Thank you.
So Melissa, from a city standpoint, the way that works is if there was a change to the final development plan from the preliminary development plan, that would come before this board. It would be a minor change if it's a reduction in density. If at any point there was an addition to density, it would be seen by this group and then passed along to the council. It's the same as rezoning a piece of property at that point. So this kind of provides the guiding principles that they stay within, even though there might be some movements along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love to have, a dozen tree houses and some kind of more dense building down on the site that gives us more capacity, but we got to crawl, walk, and then run.
So much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Any questions from our guest here tonight? So if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval.
I'll give you my
Oh, I'm sorry.
staff recommendation
Oh,
first.
okay. Sorry.
Based on the findings from staff, staff recommends approval of the request to approve the final development plan with conditions. This is a standard condition that the site is also subject to applicable requirements of the City of Travelers Rest zoning ordinance, as well as other applicable ordinances, which says that they still have to go through land development and everything else and meet our sign ordinances and that sort of thing.
Now,
I make a motion to approve TR 21-13 final development plan, minor change with conditions.
we have a motion. Is there a second? Evan? Any other discussion? All those in favor, right hand. Opposed, like sign. Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, learn some news here before the meeting started, and this is going to be Catherine's last meeting with us. Her position is being transitioned to full-time, and she can't do that at this time, so she's going to be leaving us for a while. Maybe she'll be back, but thank you so much. We've appreciated you being here and all that you've done to kind of keep us in line and keep us straight and help us through these things.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Chair Cooper. I hope to circle back around some and see some of you guys from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. Thanks.